You got a good visual?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Books and More 1818. I actually have two lovely guests here today with me, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves to the show. Thank you for coming on our show. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have who? Kerry Williams and Pearl. Please, Kerry, tell us a little bit about yourself and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Sylvia. Just gonna read you a bio on my book that I have on the back of the book, which will tell you a little bit about myself. All right, my name is Kerry Williams. I was born in Greenville, South Carolina, to Mr. Marion and Vernell Williams. I was a product of a military family who lived various places, various places, spending most of my time life in Howe Township, New Jersey. I joined the Army in 1975 after graduating from high school, and at age 17, I served 8 years of active duty, and the majority of my time was at that time was in Germany. After returning from Germany in 1983, I left the active duty Army, and I dedicated myself to the Army National Guard, where I joined in 1984. I served 36 years into the Guard, and I was deployed to Kandahar, Afghanistan in 2012 to 2013. During this time in National Guard, I became a caregiver and at the Arthur Brisbane Child Treatment Center, which is located in Howell, New Jersey. During the last 28 years, I have focused on being a caregiver and a positive influence to adolescents. I left the Army in 2013 in New Jersey, where I'm currently a caregiver for Aunt Pearl and Uncle Benny, who's passed away. So that's basically a bio on myself.
Welcome, Pearl. Kerry, welcome to the show. I am so proud of you, Kerry. You are inspiring. You're inspiring me so much. Can you please hold up your book and tell us the name?
Yeah, my book is called Sacrifice. And you see on the cover, it has a picture of Aunt Pearl in her early years of life, which I guess she was like 25, and Uncle Benny. And you see the back of the book with the guy playing the harp. And also, this is a picture from original picture that Aunt Pearl and Uncle Benny had here at the house. And this is the original picture that is also the cover of the book.
Beautiful,
Okay,
beautiful.
so that's where I got the inspiration to use Aunt Pearl and Uncle Benny, basically to tell the story of me being a caregiver for the elderly, which I became a caregiver for the elderly over the last 3 or 4 years, which has taken, a lot of my time, but it's worth every minute of it to be here taking care of Pearl. And like I said, Uncle Benny passed a couple of years ago.
Hmm. Well, I'm going to throw some questions at you, but before I do that, may I salute you? I really want to salute
Thank
you.
you, thank you, my
Thank you
friend
for
Sylvia.
your service.
Let's salute you.
Thank you for being so unselfish for all you've done for your Aunt Pearl and Uncle Benny and just your whole personality. I've gotten to know him a little bit. He's definitely one of the most unselfish people I've ever met in my life. I mean, we're meeting now in
Mhm.
person, but we chatted on the phone. But I'm telling you, wow, I salute you. You
Thank
have
you,
to give me
Sylvia.
applause. Definitely. Thank you so much. It's nice knowing you. Yes. All right, I'm going to give you a couple of questions. What inspired what inspired you to write a book and what was the subject matter?
Well, I've always said for many, many years, over probably the last 20 years, that I always wanted to write a book. I actually started on another book prior to this book. It was called Still Singing with Miss Mac. She was my choir teacher in high school, who I knew for probably most of the part of my life in high school. Then after high school, and after I came back from the army, Mrs. Mack was living in the Leisure Village, which was located in Manchester, New Jersey, and she had a choral group there for adults. And after I came back from the army and got out of the army, I started singing with Miss Mack again. She recently passed away over the last 5 years, but I've always been influenced to write a book on her first. When I started the book, on Mrs. Mack, but kind of like got sidetracked when I went into the Army. I mean, after I came back from the Army. And once I became a caregiver for Aunt Pearl and Uncle Benny, I just want to just try to just tell a story about taking care of the elderly and providing care for the elderly. And from there, that gave me the inspiration to start writing the book. I shared it with a guy named Shane Daigle, who is a friend of John. All right, and John and Shane encouraged me to do a movie, but I says, well, rather than do a movie, let me maybe write a book. And then I got in touch with John, and John, we talked a little bit about the subject matter, and there's the book.
I loved the book, and I'm waiting and hoping there's going to be a movie, a sequel to the book. I was actually very sad when I finished the book because I wanted more. I said, what? No, I want more. I can't be done with this book. No, please. It was really good. I loved it so much. And just getting to meet you now after reading that book and getting to meet Pearl, pure delight. Pure delight.
And we're honored to have you in our home.
I'm honored that you're coming. I'm honored that you came on my show. Thank you. I'm so happy. Thank you so much.
Hopefully it will influence other people to look at it and catch on and come interested in it, and not just turn it off after a couple of minutes and watch the whole interview from start to finish, hopefully.
And to read his book titled Sacrifice. I guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, you are not going to want to put this book down. It is just inspiring, amazing. The writing is unbelievable. The story is unbelievable. Don't miss it. Please don't miss this book. Sacrifice by Kerry Williams. Amazing. All right, I have some more questions for you.
Go ahead.
Can you share some details about your military experiences, including your tour of Afghanistan and the challenges you faced as an elderly deployed man in the service?
Well, my military experiences go back to the beginning of 1975 after graduating high school. I didn't really have too many choices after high school because I guess I didn't have the educational level to go to college at that time. And kind of school systems seemed like back in the day here in this area, they like were passing people through. So anyway, make a long story short, I was able to get into the active Army with the help of a recruiter. And that was in 1975, and I came in the Army to be a paratrooper at first, and to be a infantryman. But during my training, I got a little sidetracked in my early years, and I ended up becoming a radio teletype operator after graduating basic training, which was pretty easy because I was an athlete in high school, played football, basketball, baseball. I always kept a level of fitness, so I had really no problems getting through the basic training side of the military. And anybody who's young that's an athlete, the military is a good avenue for younger people these days. There's not a lot of opportunities out there. But anyway, after finishing up with my basic training, and I went to Germany, where I served 8 years in Germany, and I was a part of an elite training battalion, which we dealt with Pershing missiles, which they were like missiles of nuclear capacity. And I spent pretty much 8 years there, and I had a nice lady there in Germany, Dagmar, who's in the book also. And I spent 8 years there, and at the time that I wanted to come back out of the Army after my active duty time, I wanted to come back and go to college. At this point, I had got my educational level up there pretty high to where I could go to college. So I was going to marry Dagmar, and right before we were supposed to get married, a couple of months before we were supposed to get married, her mother passed away. And this is all done with the military. And she had younger siblings, and her younger siblings, they were no older than 13, 11, 9, and a little younger, I think. And I was at this time, I guess, 24, 25 years old. So I already served 8 years in Germany, that amount of time. So I made a decision to leave Germany and leave her in Germany because she wanted to stay there and take care of her siblings. And I came back to the United States, and where I became a child caregiver. You're right, Pearl? Where I became a child caregiver for Arthur Brisbane, and I joined the National Guard. And during the National Guard, I was a family service coordinator, so I learned how to work with families and children and their families of deployed military people. Big change from Germany. And I did that for a lot of years, which wasn't very challenging. It wasn't very challenging. It was pretty easy going stuff. Working with the family, setting up the parties, the Christmas parties, the Valentine's Day dinners, stuff like that. In general, stuff. Met a lot of families, helped a lot of soldiers stay in the military, and until later on in 2012, I got a deployment order, which I was 52 years old. So we're going 28 years after I came into the Guard. And I was 52, and I was one of the oldest persons to be deployed to Afghanistan, which was a real challenge going through the training, completing the training, because you have to complete several modules before you get to Afghanistan. You know, you have to do PT tests, you have to meet height and weight,
Mm.
you have to qualify with your weapon, and most of all, you had to do land nav. Land nav is finding different points in the woods in the forest without any assistance. So that was a little challenging for me with the land nav, which is outlined in the book. I covered the story about doing the land nav and being in Pennsylvania, up in Pennsylvania, and out in the woods, lost for 2 hours, looking for points to. Had to find 5 points. I was on my final point. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it, and it was like a metaphor, which I told John. Um, I took off my stuff. People were looking for me, calling my name, Sergeant Williams, Sergeant Williams. If I would have turned myself into those people, I wouldn't have passed the class. So I kind of like hid out on them. I hid,
Mm.
because I didn't want them to find me, because I wanted to find this last point so I can complete this task of being able to get deployed. And I laid down on the ground for a second, looked up in the sky, and we're at Indiantown Water Gap, Pennsylvania. I can remember it like it was yesterday. And it's also the story is also in the book. And I looked up, and there was a deer looking at me. I don't know if you saw that, the deer was in the book. You recall that
Yeah.
in the book when you read it? And he kind of like was looking at me, and I was looking at him, and kind of for whatever reason, I went to that point where that deer was, and there was that final point that I was looking for to complete the task. So I got that number off the task, and then I headed back to the area. Got back to the area, and they were all waiting because everybody was like wondering where I was. Came over the mountaintop. I had a big stick. Walked over the mountaintop. They all cheered for me, clapped for me. That I completed the task, and that was the beginning task to get to Afghanistan. And of course, I went to Afghanistan after that. And Afghanistan was very grueling, very hot, very hard deployment for an elderly person. I had a really good job there in the Chris Yard, which I talk a little bit about my jobs in Afghanistan, working in the Chris Yard, working with supplies, and wondering how I got a job with so much multitude, handling $1 million contracts. And here I am from New Jersey. Now I'm in Afghanistan in charge of the Chris Yard, handling $1 million contracts. And then I tell some other stories about some people in Afghanistan and losing a couple of soldiers over there and the life of being deployed. And then I was involved in a choking episode where I swallowed something and I kind of like didn't know it. And I tore something in my lining in my stomach. And I was in my barracks the next day. And Lieutenant Jordan came to my room and she saw me and they took me to the hospital. And then they found out that I had some type of bleeding in my chest.
Oy.
So I was taken from Afghanistan and I was sent to Landstuhl, Germany, where I stayed in Landstuhl for about a week. And then they sent me to Walter Reed Hospital, where I came to Walter Reed. And then when I got there, I didn't realize it's in Bethesda, Maryland. I didn't realize the multitude of how many wounded warriors. That's when I became familiar with the Wounded Warriors Association. They
Mm.
looked at my chest. I had a tear. They repaired it. I had something going up my esophagus and my stomach. They repaired it, and I spent about 2 months at Walter Reed in recovery and started therapy. And then I realized I had some PTSD stuff going on. And Linda comes there, who my wife is in the book. I talk about her in the book, coming to Walter Reed and spending time with me there. And after I got discharged from Walter Reed, I came back from New Jersey, from Bethesda, Maryland, at that point, and I guess I didn't realize the stuff that happened to me in Afghanistan, losing the soldiers and the IED stuff. I didn't realize the multitude of how it was affecting me. So that pretty
PTSD.
much was the challenge of my military stuff.
Yeah, PTSD, right?
Mm-hmm.
Terrible. Oh boy. Um, how did you find the right caregiver for Aunt Pearl and Uncle Benny.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about the people you went through? How did you find the right person like Nikki to be the caregiver of your aunts and uncle as outlined in the book? And why was she the right person?
Yeah. Well, at first, when I first started taking care of Aunt Pearl and Uncle Benny, it was my intentions to put both of them away in a facility. I came here to like kind of like put them away, and but Uncle Benny didn't want to be put away. He wanted to stay in his home, which is understandable. He's here all of his life,
Sure.
and he wanted to be in his home. He refused to allow me to put him away. But I started the documentation for the Veterans Hospital, and after visiting with him back and forth in and out of the hospital, they were in short-term care facilities, and I was visiting with them. I came to the understanding that you know the cost to put someone in one of those facilities, it's almost as astronomical. It's a really hard to have the affordability to have a loved one put away. So the cheapest way was to let them stay at home. So I decided to take on the responsibilities of caring for them in the house, and I did it for a week, and I realized I had to hire somebody. So first, I hired a woman, um, Tandra, her name was, matter of fact, and she was all right. I knew her from my past experiences, and I knew she had the job of doing that. But she kind of like not mean to Aunt Pearl, but she kind of like say stuff like, "You're gonna get your butt in the shower today," and kind of like talk to them like like they weren't real people, kind of like. And I kind of rubbed me wrong, and I tried to work with her and say, "You can't talk to me like that." And then once she started talking on the phone, and I heard her in the back talking on the phone, and she was calling them clients. Once she referred to my Aunt Pearl and Uncle Benny as a client, I realized that she wasn't in it to really help them as like I'm working with her now. So I told her she had to go. So she got her papers and got her money, and she went on about her business. Then I had a lady named Marcy who I knew, which I don't think I talked about Marcy. I think I'm going to talk about her a little bit in the book. I talk about Marcy in the book. I do. And I talked about how I had her, but I knew her prior to me going to Afghanistan. I knew her prior. She and her son and her family. She was a caregiver for children, but not for the elderly. But Marcy seemed like she couldn't really put it together. She was Jamaican, which has nothing to do with her being Jamaican. She seemed like she couldn't just like put it together and have a schedule. So I was hurting for someone, and my ex-wife Linda, who's in the book, Linda, um, she had a friend and told me about this girl named Nikki, and I invited Nikki over for an interview. She came to the house for an interview. Tall, slender woman, kind of like nobody. You could tell Nikki. I talked about the book Nikki and her cancer in the book.
Mm.
You could tell she was some ailments, but she said she wanted the job because she needed something to do.
Ah,
She was in a situation where she was kind of like not helpless, but she had no really things to do. So I told her I'd give her a chance, and she came and she started with Pearl. Matter of fact, she just left. I asked her did she want to stay for a little bit for the interview, but
ah,
she told me she had to go. She was with Pearl today.
too
She got
bad.
her all dressed up, got her hair done.
I would have
She
loved to meet her too.
Yeah, she gives a lot of care. But Nikki just doesn't wasn't just a caregiver for Aunt Pearl and Uncle Benny. Nikki was a caregiver, not for me, because it's not her responsibility to look after me. But she
Right.
started doing like making my beds and doing my clothes. She kind of like doing all housely chores.
Yeah.
And I told her I compensated her for it, but she wasn't in it for the money. And once I realized that she wasn't in it for the money, I knew she was the right person to have here. And Nikki's been here now going on 3 years, 2.5 years, going on 3 years. I've been here now,
Wow.
and she has her like I talk about her in the book about her frailness, her cancer comes. She's in remission right now,
Very
but she's a wonderful woman. She's a wonderful person. Aunt Pearl, she tells Aunt Pearl every day that she loves her. She gives her a kiss every day. She makes her bed. She takes her because Nikki's not that big like me. You see, I'm a big man. I'm
good.
289 pounds.
Don't make me
Nikki,
cry.
yeah, Nikki's like maybe 110 pounds, 115, and she's tall too. But she used to be a full-figured woman at one point. She was almost 180, 190. But
Wow.
through the cancer and her weight, she just hasn't been able to build no mass. but she's looking good. She's doing good. We pray with her. We talk to her on a regular basis. We're so happy to have Nikki, right, Pearl? Pearl? Yes, Pearl shook her head. We're so happy to have Nikki. And Pearl loves Nikki, and Nikki's a lifesaver for me.
That's wonderful. I was so happy to read about that in the book as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
What do you hope readers will gain from your book? And why is it important for you to why is it important to you to care for the elderly? Excuse me. Excuse me.
I don't know what's something about me. I've always had a thing for children and the elderly.
Yes, me too.
Grandfather, Mr. Jim, was 98 when he died. Her grandma Gertrude she died early because she had some problems with her legs. She was in her 80s. My
Okay.
mom is 91.
Wow.
Earl is 96.
Wow.
Yes,
96.
you are. She says she's not 96, but she is.
Wow.
And I just was always a person who liked to sing for the elderly and do things to kind of like, we're born children and we die as the elderly. And children to certain ages, they're innocent. They're innocent. There's so much innocence about them. All they need is some help, some guidance, someone to listen to them. A lot of people today, parents today, don't seem like they listen to the children, what they're saying. You got to listen to your children if they're talking to you.
That's right.
And
I do.
I just always had um, a passion for children. I'm not talking about 20-year-old children. I'm talking about ages from 5. If you see, I see a kid in the supermarket. I look at them, they look at me, and I smile at them, and they smile back at me.
Yes.
I don't even know the kids, and I give them the eye. They give me the eye. Give them the eye. They
Yeah,
give me
I
like,
do the same. I do the
huh?
same. Yeah, yeah.
So I just always had a passion for caring for people in general. So I guess that would be the reason why I really. And then, like I said, I came here and started taking care of Aunt Pearl and Uncle Benny. Uncle Benny gave me a little bit of run for my money. Aunt Pearl is the sister of my father.
Yeah.
Uncle Benny wasn't in my family, but he was married to Aunt Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also a soldier too, a Vietnam soldier, which I
Yeah.
talk a little lot about him in the book and
Yeah.
his way he is and his personality and how he was kind of like this strong man. So yes, that's been as the gives me the real desire to work with the elderly. Did that
Mark.
answer your question?
I mean, I agree with you. I love kids too. I always look at the little kids. When my kids were
Mhm.
growing up, I was always there for them. Even now when they're older, I make time. You have to make time to
You
listen.
have to make time for them,
They always need you, even when they're older. That's,
and
if
you
you don't
got to
make
listen
time
to
for
them if
them.
they're telling you. If they're telling you something, you can't bat an eye. You have to show them that you're listening and not just blow them off. You can't blow your kids off. People blow their kids off, and you just don't know the kids just need someone to talk to. And sometimes they get better more from strangers than they get from their own people at home. I don't know why that is, but because they know
Yes,
that sometimes the parents are listening to them.
it's terrible. Will there be a book number 2? Please tell me yes.
I'm working on a sequel for this book right now. It's not going to be called Sacrifice to, but I think I'm going to call it Redemption because since Uncle Benny has passed away, and the
Mm,
thing that I've been dealing with now is a form of redemption of how I want to tell more stories about Dagmar and how Pearl is living after the loss of her husband, how I am, since then. And so I think it will be probably a sequel. I don't know when, but I'm working on it now. It's in progress.
well, make sure to tell me when so I can tell the audience because I'm dying to read book number 2.
Sounds good.
Where can we buy your book? Where can we contact you?
Well, the only contact information I have is just my information that's on the my email is kerry1478 at l.com. That's my email if you want to reach me by email. I'm not on any platforms like Facebook. This is a Larkin. I just joined that. I'm going to work on trying to get on some little more platforms and find me some other avenues to where I can kind of do like what you do a little bit, not what you do, but where I can be more, you know, available to anybody that want to have any information. But the book is on the Amazon Prime. I've sold numerous numbers of copies. Um, it's doing good. You're the first person that's working with me to try to work and get it publicized and get it more out there. This is the first step since this book's been done for almost going on 2 years now. But once I wrote it, I put it on Amazon and I let Amazon do it. I'm not kind of like, not saying because of my PTSD or nothing like that, but I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to get out there and find the right people to get the book out there, and that's why I got in touch with you. And you said you'll try to give me as much assistance as possible, and I'm honored to be in your grace and taking on the help that you're giving me.
Thank you. And I'm honored to help you. And absolutely, I want to get that book out there. And I highly recommend for everyone to read it. You really won't be disappointed. I also recommend for everyone to subscribe to my channel, to like, please comment, please share. I'm there to help. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So
Okay.
thank you for coming on my show, Kerry. Thank you. It was an honor, a privilege. I can't say enough. And I just want to tell you in passing that I hope your book flies off the shelves as it should.
Okay.
And have a good night, everyone. Thank
And
you, Pearl.
we want to thank you. Thank you, Pearl, for everything too. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye, everyone. Have a great night. Bye.
Bye
Like,
bye.
comment, and share, please. Subscribe.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Bye, all.